Homelessness is defined as living in housing that is below the minimum standard, living on the streets or moving between temporary shelters, including houses of friends, family, and emergency accommodations, or even living in a private boarding house without private bathroom or security. People who are homeless are most often unable to acquire and maintain a regular, safe, secure, and adequate housing due to income that is inconsistent or lacking altogether. According to the 2020 data gathered during the Greater Los Angeles Homeless Count released by the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, shows that 66,433 people now live on the streets, in shelters, and in vehicles within the county's borders. That's up 12.7% from 2019. Within LA city limits, the number of people experiencing homelessness is 41,290, a 14.2% increase over the last year. But in 2020, the Antelope Valley's homeless population increased to 4,755 people, which is 44% increase over 2019's figures. You don't see many homeless within the city limits of Palmdale or Lancaster these days, so where are they? As defined earlier, some are living with friends and family in spare rooms or living in trailers or RVs in their backyards. But most of them are living in the desert, a lot of them hiding behind hills and buttes. You can see some encampments on the west side of Antelope Valley as you drive on the Interstate 14, but there seems to be a high concentration living in the southeast Antelope Valley near the rural townships of Little Rock, Parablossom, and Lake Los Angeles. While traveling east on Highway 138, you can see several encampments to the north with people living in cars, trailers, tents, RVs, most of them squatting on private property. We all agree that something truly needs to be done to help the homeless, but at whose expense? California Senate Bill 2, SB 2, was approved in 2007 with the goal of preventing zoning barriers to development of shelters and transitional and supportive housing. In 2016, Los Angeles County passed the Homeless Initiative, a comprehensive plan to address homeless through social services, funding, and land use strategies in compliance to SB 2. On February 20th, 2018, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors directed the Department of Regional Planning to initiate an ordinance to remove zoning obstacles to encourage and give incentives for permanent supportive housing by removing barriers to homeless shelters and transitional and permanent supportive housing in the zoning code and other county codes and titles, in considering fair housing and reasonable accommodations. This is what the Los Angeles County came up with. It's called the Interim and Supportive Housing Ordinance, or ISHO. Interim housing provides short-term stays and various services for people experiencing homelessness until they are connected with permanent housing. Interim housing includes shelters where people can stay up to 6 months and transitional housing where people can stay up to 2 years. Supportive housing is affordable housing combined with comprehensive array of services that help people who face the most complex challenges to live with stability, autonomy, and dignity. The Interim and Supportive Housing Ordinance aims to encourage the development of housing for people experiencing homelessness, shelters, transitional housing, and supportive housing, and to support temporary vehicle living. The draft ISHO includes a few components, including proposals to comply with state law regarding shelters, transitional and supportive housing, and other housing types for specific populations, streamline shelters and accessory shelter review by allowing them by right in certain zones where appropriate, clarify review of accessory overnight safe parking lots, streamline temporary and permanent conversion of hotels, motels, and youth hostels to transitional housing and shelters that meet certain criteria by allowing them by right in zones where appropriate, and expand parking options for recreational vehicles. It seems that the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors has chosen the unincorporated Antelope Valley and its rural communities as the target for the lion's share and the majority of where this ISHO policy is to be fulfilled. The Antelope Valley is a welcoming place. Communities across our valley attract residents who appreciate modestly priced land and homes, suburban and rural living, and raising families in a small town atmosphere, surrounded by really impressive natural areas and rimmed by spectacular mountain beauty. Rural residents across our valley should know about the county's proposal, Interim and supportive housing ordinance, and how it will change their community's character, their health, their safety, and their well-being without any way to stop it. Great portions of the Antelope Valley are designated by the county as disadvantaged unincorporated communities, which means residents have lower than average incomes and less than equal voice compared to more affluent districts in the county. And nearly all the land here is agriculturally zoned. Yet the county is targeting agriculturally zoned to allow emergency homeless shelters without any size limit, with no input from our communities, with just a permit, which means no public hearings and no public comment. Our rural communities are residential, but the residential communities down in the Los Angeles basin will not see emergency shelters near their homes because the county will not permit them there. This map shows land where this will be allowed with only a permit. The county also proposes allowing occupied RV parking with no clear procedures for oversight. Rural communities of the Antelope Valley are already experiencing the impact of unauthorized camping and RV parking, and this ordinance will open up the floodgates for even more. There are concerns about disposal of sewage and trash. How will this affect our health? How will this affect our water quality? How will this affect the nature that surrounds us? What about property values? This ordinance will allow occupied RV parking without any promise to enforce adequate sewage disposal or limits on RV storage. Current ordinances go unenforced now, often to the detriment of neighboring properties. What will make this more difficult for property owners and residents is the new directive of the Los Angeles County District Attorney, George Gascon. He says he will not enforce prosecution for trespass, disturbing the peace, criminal threats, drinking in public, public intoxication, loitering, being under the influence of a controlled substance, drug paraphernalia, or possession, loitering to commit prostitution, or resisting arrest. There will be essentially no protection for residents or property owners against these violations that often come with shelters, RV parking, or unauthorized encampments on private property. Antelope Valley residents want to help people, but it must be done in the right way and with ways to protect rural communities from adverse effects that can easily be predicted. For more information and crucial contacts for Catherine Barger and the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, please see the links below this video. Thank you.